Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Today is December 12th, 2025, and we are here for the Colorado Forest Health Council Legislative Committee meeting. I'm chair of this legislative committee, Jody Shattuck McNally, Larimer County Commissioner, and I welcome you all and wish you all happy holidays. We're so grateful for this committee and the very frequent cadence we have because we have a lot of work. They like to discuss some really important conversations. So welcome everyone. Let's do roll call. I think we're going to have quorum now. So let's do roll call. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'll run through real quick. Samantha Albert.
Morning, all.
Good morning, Samantha. Pat Dorsey. Let me know she was, I think, going to be traveling right now. Christina Bury.
Morning.
Morning, Christina. Commissioner Jody Shattuck McNally.
Present.
Good morning, Commissioner. Mark Morgan.
Good morning.
Good morning. Julie Stinsel. I see you there, Julie. All right. Commissioner Veronica Medina might be joining us soon, and Allison Lurch.
Morning, everyone. I just want to say I'm really sorry I'll be in and out this morning for a couple other meetings.
And no worries about that. If anyone understands that, that is me. So, well, thank you all for being here, and let's get rolling. And we have approval of the minutes from December 5th, 2025. Does anyone have any additions or changes? If not, I welcome a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Looks like Christina was the second. So any further discussion? Oh, Samantha. Which one? Were
We
they
talked
tied?
at the same time. Give it to Christina. Thanks.
Okay. I'm looking for mouths moving. Well, let's go ahead and all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Onward and upward. You guys are just amazing. I'm sure we're all kind of like feeling the Christmas holiday crunch. So let's go into our discussion and deliberative steps for our 2027 legislative suggestions for priorities. And, we had everyone kind of asked you to do some homework and look back at some things. And I'm going to do it this way this time. And I'm going to work kind of in backwards. So we have, I don't know if you want to pull up the screen sharing of the list we have so far. I think you did a great job, Courtney, with the that list we had started. So, and then let's, I'm going to try this a little different today, just for the beginning, okay? So I'm going to start, and just warn you, I'm going to start in a different order. I want to hear from everybody, even if you have just a little bit to say or a lot to say. Just overall, let's not even worry about funding or anything. Let's just talk about what was, and I'm going to have my comment on that too. What are some themes or reoccurring themes, or what was something also that was an aha? And I'm going to start with Samantha. We're going to go around the screen a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Jody. I mean, coming from the perspective of the Economic Development Agency, I'm particularly interested in opportunities for cross-agency support and collaboration. While I work within the Outdoor Recreation Division, there's a lot of initiatives and good examples of like incentive programs to support critical industry. And so I just wanted to give a +1 again to, it wasn't this past year, but I think it was a previous year where we had the Gates Family Foundation present on the mass timber. So I think it would just be interesting maybe to look at opportunities like on the timber and housing side, especially since OEDIT as an agency has been tasked with a lot of housing development in the recent legislation, Prop 123 in particular. So that would be my +1. Otherwise, I know we all were very interested in the pine beetle conversation last time, and I know there's more information coming, but I'm really intrigued to hear what opportunities there are on that front and what the governor's office is going to be pushing forward. So I'd give another +1 for that one.
Great. I really appreciate your insights because you have a really unique and important perspective, Samantha. And I know you keep talking about all those opportunities and funding. And I don't know if you have time today or maybe sometime in the next couple of days. I'm trying to respect that everyone's probably doing double, triple duty with just trying to get through to the end of the year. And if we can maybe send those, either put them in the chat today or send them to Courtney so we can kind of have a list so people can maybe look through and read them. And you always remind us of that. And I think that's really important. All right, the next person I'm going to go to is Christina.
Morning, thank you. Let's see, from this list, I think I'm just personally, watershed, water supplies are always going to continue to be a need for Colorado. So I appreciated the Forest Health Nexus with watersheds. And I think that there's just a lot of opportunity with the existing programs, like with Wildfire Ready Watersheds and Co-swap and Furworm and Healthy Forest Vibrant Communities. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity there. Definitely the placeholder for mountain pine beetle. I think we're going to be learning more the next couple weeks. So I think that that's really exciting. And there's potential there. And biomass. I think that that continues to be a barrier, and we have to address it in order to increase the pace and scale. So those would probably be my top 3. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Julie Stencil.
Hi, good morning. I was sorry to miss the pine beetle discussion last week, and I've reviewed most of the video. I think when I think about priorities, the pine beetle really got me thinking in terms of, again, we started a lot of our conversation around legislation initially for this committee around workforce. And when I hear that we're starting to have another pine beetle problem, 2 things jump into my mind, which is the last, back in 2009, when we were having a fairly significant pine beetle problem. Again, it was a workforce problem. It was from the utility perspective, there were 2 things happening that I think are important that this committee can help with. One, what happens with the pine beetle becomes an added layer to the wildfire mitigation need and problem, and is exacerbated by a lack of workforce. And so when I think about it, I think, prioritizing an interplay between how we handle a pine beetle epidemic reoccurring and how that informs wildfire risk zone mapping, activities that are taking place, and priorities for handling that beetle outbreak. Because again, coming from the utility perspective, and no disrespect intended to the presenter last week as he was talking about I-70, and I totally understand and appreciate why that's an eyesore. My first thought was, what is the proximity of this beetle outbreak to overhead power lines, whether they're Excel's, whether they're anyone else's, right? That starts to change the dynamic of why is that pine beetle a problem, right? Because you do not want trees dying and falling into power lines. It's a huge problem for everyone. And so I guess to me, the new information coming out about pine beetle really elevated that for me, because I see that as a direct impact on wildfire risk zones. It becomes a problem with the lack of workforce. I think we need to think about how we assist in the prioritization of addressing that pine beetle outbreak to minimize impact on already high wildfire risk zones. and then do so with an eye toward cooperation between state lands, federal lands, private lands. Again, just bringing the utility perspective to everyone's forefront. The utility can only touch things that are within the prescribed right of way. So if that utility corridor is coming through state or federal lands and you have dead or diseased or impacted trees outside of that right of way, what has historically been a monumental challenge is getting the permission. So if you assume for a moment that either the state or the federal force don't have the manpower to go handle a hazard tree outside of the right of way, cutting through red tape and making the process very quick and efficient to enable and incentivize a utility to go remove that hazard to its asset and do so with protection, not with what we've seen historically is, sure, go ahead, step off your right of way, take that tree. But now by touching it, you have owned a massive amount of liability that shouldn't belong to the utility. And striking the right balance there, I think, is really important and can be a conversation that is had to reduce risk to the state without having much of a price tag associated with it. There is a reduction in liability to do important work if you have the resources to put toward a problem. I think is a place where we can find mutual benefit for the good of the state. So that's my rant. Thank you for listening.
I don't think it's a rant. I see it as you bring, like, this committee has a lot of diverse perspectives, important, critical, that is chosen to have these diverse perspectives, things that someone hasn't seen it from that viewpoint. And I think it's really important. They're not rants. They're really important. I mean, because that's your passion. This is where you work. This is,
It really is. I see it
Right.
every day. And
Yeah,
the
and this
roadblocks,
is-
I appreciate that. Thank you.
well, and we're all looking to find solutions. We all care about the same thing, or we wouldn't be here. And if we don't consider everyone's viewpoint today and bring that all together and have this captured, I think we might be missing an opportunity, because we have some unique circumstances and challenges right now. And I wanted to give everyone a chance just to speak freely and not worry about the constraints right now. Let's just see what happens. And you never know, it might spark something in somebody. And I want us all to be able to speak and share concerns or other things. So I just wanted to share that. All right, so let's go on. Oh, Pat, if you're here, we haven't got to hear from you a couple of weeks. Pat, are you here? Can you want to join and share?
I don't believe Pat is here today. She was going to be traveling.
Oh, okay. I'm looking on the list, trying to see who is actually here. All right, let's go on to, I'm working backwards for a reason. So just, there's a method to my madness. So, James, you have a very unique perspective and you've been listening in. What's something that is top of mind for you? What's some insights?
I actually wasn't prepared, but I think my role as kind of like pseudo support staff is to help flesh out any ideas that you guys have. And I think what you're doing right now, Commissioner, is like getting an understanding of what everybody's kind of top kind of placeholder should be. I think it's a good thing to go. I think this committee is rightfully concerned about mountain pine beetle. I think there's going to be definite ways for this committee to get involved in that. I'm not sure if there's legislative things that are available to this committee right now. That being said, I think a lot of the good work that this committee continues to do is in the workforce development space. I'm unsure what that looks like in the path forward, but at least happy to report that Senate Bill 5, that industry internship, got its first hurdle. We weren't expecting to get more money, but that internship is being funded for at least another year. That's what the JBC, the analyst recommended. We'll see if that moves forward. But apart from that, I think the continued work on the workforce development pieces that this committee does is the shining star that this committee has always done. So I would encourage the committee to keep looking at some of those things, whether they be in the forestry space, the firefighter workspace, or anything like that. But I'm happy to support get anything kind of into a legislative space as this committee kind of continues its deliberations.
And again, I know I kind of threw you all, and there's a method to my madness, but I'm trying, you all have been in these meetings and you've all been listening, and we've all been really contemplating all of these things. So, all right. James, I appreciate it though, because you're in many, many different rooms that we are not in, and doing a lot of great work. And so I think sometimes, like me and like commissioners, we're in a lot of different rooms about a lot of different topics, and that will be something I'm going to add here, because I found kind of an interesting overlap that I don't think we knew about, or that maybe we haven't really considered. But sometimes when you're in those different meetings in different rooms, and you may not say, oh, wait a minute, we were looking for something like that and they're doing, I wonder if we could partner. So that's what I'm also hoping today. All right, so I'm going to go with Mr. Morgan right now. And again, there's a method to my madness.
Several things. One of the first things, it's a smaller item actually, but we can affect, we need to revamp and overhaul the pile burning regulations in this state. That's a huge thing for a lot of landowners, and we need to jump on it. It's a pretty simple thing, and it can be done without a lot of cost. Julie Stenzel's comments were right on. Where your risk is going to be to the power companies, I think is going to be in some ways greater. This is going to be more of a mid-level epidemic in bugs. We're going to be down in the Ponderosa area quite a bit, and that's where most of your urban interface areas are, which is where most of your power lines are. And so I think there needs to be a place for utility companies at the table when the planning is done for forest treatments. There needs to be a place there. It needs to be incorporated right at the planning stage. And I think that, again, that could be legislative. There's a lot of people have a place at that table. Wildlife does. A lot of other concerns are, and there needs to be one more chair. And that would be my recommendation there. Workforce is always huge for me. We don't have the people to do the work. It doesn't matter what we plan. So I think that's a big one. One thing that from an industry standpoint, everybody's struggling with biomass. We have to look at leaving biomass. How much biomass are we forced to remove and how much can stay on the forest? I don't believe that there is simply the economic driver to remove the amount of biomass, nor a use for it that everybody is hoping for. You're not going to get a magic bullet. I deal with that every day. And how much biomass? I think we need to look real hard at fuels manipulation rather than always biomass removal. We're spending our dollars and we're not getting the risk in fire risk reduction, and we're not getting the forest management. And a lot of these things, I guess, historically about the bugs, as soon as your basal area and your stands in get up above 70, 75, 80, there's a lot of research has already been done on this. The research has been done repeatedly. Then you get these endemic populations explode and we have bug outbreaks. And we have to look at managing our forests, especially our urban interface forests, to get a realistic level of management reduction that solves your fuels problems, it solves your bug problems. And what we've got going on right now, we're doing a lot of management, and the management is aimed at fuels reduction, which oftentimes leaves bigger trees, which are actually your targets for your bugs. So we have to have an across the board, all age groups management strategy to keep our basal area down. And that will deal with both your fuels problems and with your bug problem. I think the bug problem is going to drive this. I've said in the past that generally we didn't even know what our next big problem was going to be. Well, it's here. The pine beetle's back again in kind of what I think a lot of people would think it was ahead of schedule. And I think that's coming from a bias about not doing management work, real management work, and volume reduction in our WUI areas. And if you look at this bug outbreak, you can just track it as to the, I would love to see this. What are the basal areas on all the stands where the biggest outbreaks are taking shape right now? And I think you would find that the basal areas are up on all of those. And there's a bias, and people buy property, they buy lots. I understand all of that. They don't buy it to make a commercial forest out of it. That's their recreational ground, that's their home, whatever. But we have to encourage them to manage these properties and get our forests in a manageable condition. And that's what causes all the others. So however we can go about that, I think legislatively, a quickie, it's not the highest priority, but a quick fix right now is streamline these burning regulations so people can deal with biomass on their sites. That's number one. If you look at Florida right now, I think it's got 5 times the population of Colorado. It's got 2/3 of the land area. And I've heard about smoke and everything else. They burn all the time down there. That's a huge management tool for them. It can be done. And so I think we got to find ways to get people together. I think it's a tool that you have to use. If you look at all biomass utilizations, almost all of them have a foreign component. And so Colorado's in a negative, unique position in that we don't have a way to put the product through a pipe into a boat. We have a rail transportation cost, and then we have a shipping cost into any of the European markets for pellets or whatever. So I think we have to look at ways to deal with our biomass, deal with forest manipulation of fuels, not biomass. And we can do both, but we can't do it. We can't depend upon biomass markets to get your fuels to manage your forest under, say, a 75 or 80 basal area. It isn't there. So that's what I'm thinking.
Well, and I appreciate what you're all saying, and I know the prescribed burn and pile burning, you know, I'm serving on, and Alice, I don't know if Alice is still here, her and I serve on the subcommittee between the Fire Commission and the Forest Health Council, and they have been working on burning recommendations and the liability, and that's all, those recommendations are out, and now we're on the implementation phase, which is slowed down a little bit. And so that might be something to add, is how can we take that committee, which is still going, but it's kind of slowed down a little bit. I have a task I've got to do over the next month, and maybe we need to look at that subcommittee. So we don't need to start over. That work has been happening, and we need to kind of look through that and ask them. This is an idea because the pine beetle outbreak, all that, and how do we coordinate with them and not duplicate efforts and see where they're at and how we can. I mean, I kind of know where we're at, but it's a group that's already been looking in that, and then also looking at reciprocal licensing for burn bosses and increase, liability protections and all those things. So I think that might be a good thing too. I don't know when's the last time we had them come and present, but that might be something to look at. Maybe we can send an email. I think it's Katie and Allison. And Allison's on that committee with me, so maybe we don't. Maybe we need to see what they have on that list, because there's quite a few recommendations, and that I think we have been approved, and we've talked about them before in Forest Health Council's presentation. So I just wanted to kind of put a note on that, because I think it might be further along than starting kind of putting that out and see what we can pull out of that list, and go from there. So, all right. I'm just looking through our list. Can Allison, do you want to comment on that? I think, don't you think that would be a good way for us to capitalize on some of that work that's already happening if we want to look at that?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I think we can start there, but I do know that the work on that prescribed fire subcommittee, as Commissioner just mentioned, it's slowing down a bit to try and like reorganize how we move forward. So I do think some effort from this council could be of assistance too, but I like that first step of Commissioner us going back through and talking with Katie about what's going on and what maybe she sees any needs or collaboration going forward.
Great, thank you, Allison. All right, Allison, since we have you unmuted now, I know you guys are just here at staff, but you've been in a lot of rooms and you were on the work and other things. As we're talking about this and you've been listening, just for you, just as an individual who's been in all these rooms and in this meetings, what is your take, or what is really your aha or your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. And just as a reminder, I do sit on this commission as Director Dan Gibbs' proxy. So I kind of play two roles, a little bit of administration, and then also grateful to be here and be a part of these discussions. If you want to scroll back up, Courtney, if you could scroll back up on the table. I really resonate with what Christina, and I think I had mentioned this last week, with what Christina had talked about, really the convergence of our forests, our watersheds, and the importance of collaborating not just across jurisdictional boundaries or with our utilities providers and all of that, but just ensuring and supporting across our state and other programs to work together and really tie investments together. I think back to when I started this job, and Director Dan Gibbs would still talk about no more random acts of wildfire mitigation. And we have come so far in this state with our statewide prioritizations, especially with the Colorado Forest Action Plan and the Colorado Water Conservation Board's Wildfire Ready Watersheds program, to really hone in on where we need to go. Especially when it comes to our watersheds. So I'm going to still +1 on that. Thank you. I think Courtney just put a plus there on that collaboration between state programs, because I think that is just so essential. And we are making huge strides in that in a lot of ways. +1 on bark beetle. And we will have much to share in the coming weeks. But if we can have space in at the end of this month or maybe in our deliberations in January, let's leave space on how we can tie in to whatever is happening that we still are not sure of yet, but we will have more information in a couple weeks. And then last, zooming down to just industry and biomass. I can't remember how it is. I'm sorry, I don't have my own screen up yet, but I just want to, just do a plug on everything that, Mark, that you bring to this group. And I'm not sure how it turns into a legislative action, but it is such a high priority of how we support our workforce and our industry. I appreciate James, or I can't remember who else said it this morning, about how this group has really continued to keep workforce as a focus. But we need to continue that. And so whether it's workforce, whether it's supporting industry, mass timber, or other means, it doesn't just have to be mass timber, of course. But how do we support our wood products industries on the Front Range and or in areas of the state that we have gaps, and really help work on reducing the cost to shipping or trucking or all of that, to really push forth with a circular forestry economy. So thank you all, and I do have to drop.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. I think those are great insights, and thank you for your comments. All right, let's go to Commissioner Medina.
Sorry, I could not find my unmute button. Thank you. Wow. So good job, Jody, for really throwing me off.
I'm
I
sorry,
think,
but this is what I just wanted. We asked everybody to do homework, and I just want to, I wanted to just facilitate this, and it's just to the top of your head. You don't have to have anything really for me, but what rises to mind? Concerns, ahas. What are you thinking?
I really ditto to, what Mark Morgan said and, others. It's just, this year has been for me, a huge learning opportunity with all things forest health, and just seeing the beetles and what it's done to my surrounding areas. And I always hear everybody say, Veronica, there's nothing that can be done, just move on. Even from our national forest guys, it's like, Veronica, if I had money, I wouldn't put it where the beetle kill is. It's just, we just don't need to deal with that. But I think too, I'm sorry, I can't think of her name, the one from Excel. I think there is more we can do, and it definitely shines a light on workforce. Again, another point that Mark has been talked about a lot. There's more that we can do, and I would love if we could do more preventative steps to actually make our forest healthy. That would be amazing, because I think preventative action is always the best action. But just how do we get there? I mean, in short, that's all I have for you this morning.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I'm not trying to throw you off. I'm just trying to help facilitate kind of us getting some thoughts down on paper. And so I'm looking for, Commissioner Waters.
Hi there. Thanks. Good morning. Seeing as I think I've been on the council for about a month, so I'm still trying to catch up, learn as much as I can, and so one of the things that I reviewed this past week was I went back and watched your presentation from the Nature Conservancy, and within that, I would say, the 4 priorities that they shared was around, forest and water, and those interconnected. So I would say, where we had a plus for interjurisdictional, I'll pull it up. I can't remember where it is. I have it on the sheet. All right. There's a couple. Yes. Forest health nexus, watersheds and grasslands. So that was one that I thought was really interesting. I think that, one of the pieces that we seem to have a lot of traction on and great support for is, at least in Summit County, is our support of the Wildfire Ready Watersheds Plan. And so, and working with, the CWCB and DNR to kind of like look at this issue holistically, I think is something that all communities would benefit for. And then I would say another one that I really want to focus on is workforce development. And then also, and I'm not sure the answer to this, but something that came up in that presentation that I found really interesting, and I don't know where it landed, was Christina was discussing with Aaron from the Nature Conservancy a recommendation around the SWRF funds and what they do in Ohio around the funding and the interest made from the funding. I don't know if that's a legislative proposal. I don't know how that works, but I did think that that's a really great idea. And if we aren't doing it, why wouldn't we be leveraging that funding that we're already getting from the EPA and the state water revolving fund? So I think that's a good one, but I'm not sure what the mechanism is. And I don't know if it's a legislative proposal, but if it is, we should definitely look into it because it seems like an easy lift.
Christina.
Yeah, thank you for picking up on that. It really solved a lot of problems in Ohio. It was 15 million per year. And is it a legislative fix? We don't know yet. So TNC, I met with those folks about 3 weeks ago, and I think they are starting to talk with our Power and Water Development Authority or whoever manages those SRF funds, and trying to see. I think the barrier to Colorado, from my understanding, is there's not as many utilities utilizing the SRF, and so there's not as much interest being generated. I think might be the barrier, but I'm not 100% sure. So I think having conversations certainly with TNC about what they're finding out about that program would be a good next step. I don't know if it's a legislative fix at this point in time, but I would love to continue the conversation anytime. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like something is better than nothing. And even if it's not at the rate of what is Ohio, it also says to me that a lot of our communities probably also need education on SWRF funding and how to utilize it and how to leverage that, because we've got state funding that can also help them. So I mean, I know we're kind of away from kind of forest health, but in the end, the goal is to support forest health work. So yeah, those were my thoughts while still trying to catch up. I've got a lot to learn, clearly. But excited to do
Did I
it.
miss anybody? Did I miss anybody? Okay, so I'm gonna start. Sorry, I'm just staff just. Anyway, I resonate with a lot of what you all said, and there were some great thoughts that I really align with, especially with Allison and Christina and Julie and Samantha. I mean, we've been having a lot of conversations about all these things, if you think about it, that we've talked about before. I mean, I think about the stools of the lake, of dealing with wildfire. You know, you have biomass, we have workforce, we have mitigation programs, we have, I just think about all those legs of a stool. And we've been, a lot of these we've been, just kind of thinking that we've been wrestling with these. And I agree with Mr. Morgan, there's no silver bullet here. We have to collectively bring all these, we can't just focus. I think if we focus on one part of the stool or the leg, it makes it unlocked and make it unstable. And I think we have to look at this as a big picture. But for saying that, there's some low-hanging fruits on this, and I think every little bit helps, and there's some big places. Definitely, I agree about the pine beetle. This is an urgent and impactful crises. So I definitely want to put a placeholder there, and I think that it's important to figure out and listen over the next few weeks as we still meet about where we can support, and whether it's a legislative fix there or not, but it might just be helping. I agree with the, I've been in some meetings about this, and I think education is going to be important. And I think the Forest Health Council can join in that, helping those efforts. So I'd just like to see how we can do that. And also, one thing we haven't talked about, the pine beetle outbreak, is when we're doing all these treatments on these landscapes that are going to be devastated. I think we also have to come back immediately or simultaneously and replant, reforest immediately, because since they're going after the larger trees. And I'd like to talk about and think about how we also do restorative work or restoration work, especially with the nursery coming online. I was over there the other day. The student organization of the American Foresters had a Christmas tree, holiday tree sale, and I supported them by picking one of their trees, and I got a chance to see kind of some of the work from afar. But so I'm wondering about that, and so I just want to say kind of restorative work there. Mr. Morgan, I have some more things to say, but would you like to chime in on that real quick?
Just had a quick comment. One of the good parts, one of the lucky pieces here in Colorado, is that the species that these pine beetle outbreaks are going to occur in generally get really good natural regeneration. And we needed to really up our game, and I pushed hard for the State Forest Service and the nursery. When we don't get it, we want to come back, like you say, and plant immediately. But by and large, we get great natural regeneration along here in the Front Range of Colorado. So I think you're in luck there. I really do. If you go back and you look at where this has happened in the past, our problem is generally too many trees, not too few.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I also wonder if there's one that just, as I understand when Dan West was saying that one house homeowner, it's just like all the trees were gone, right? Or looking like they're all going to lose all the trees. And just wanted to kind of put that in there too about, yeah, so it's an opportunity to support that.
What planting do is it cuts about 3 to 5 years off the time for natural regeneration. The stock from a nursery, you get about a 3 to 5 year head start that way.
Yeah, so I think that's something I wanted to add to that, because I think it's an opportunity if we have people in the landscapes doing that work, that maybe we can have someone right there, planting right behind it. And it might give some of those landowners, and maybe we can teach them how to do it. I go do this every year up in the Cameron Peak Burn area. I'm getting better at it, but there is some proven methods. There's some folks who are, Coalition for Poudre Watershed have been doing this for 5 years now. They think they've planted over 40,000 trees, and I've only done my 400 or 500 myself, which is small, but I've learned a lot about that. And they're doing studies and researching how the trees are doing that. And they had a really good success rate until this last year with the heat and some of the dryness. That was really a challenge for them. And so I think there's already some data about good and best practices out there. And I think that would be really cool to think about. And then, back to, so one point there. And then I do think looking at the Prescribed Fire Committee and getting some information to see if there's some things we can do to help move ahead some things to that may not be cost money, because those are already kind of some legislative work there. I wonder if there's anything we can help support. So I'm very interested in that. Of course, anything when we can explore funding from other methods is important. But I want to scroll back up. And you talk about the insurance. That's already, there's already work for the insurance commissioner that's happening there. We can just support that. So I go back to the woody biomass. There's a lot of us that are working on getting a circular economy and woody biomass. And there is some partnerships happening. And I think that is something we keep talking about and we've looked at and keep talking about. And there's going to be a lot of woody biomass from this outbreak. And I think even if there's not a lot of money for this, but if there is something that can get a pilot or proof of concept to help get over the hump to get it rolling, it might be at least something that others can build from. So I'm curious about looking for an idea or something to supercharge to see how we can do that. And it could be all of those things that are on there. But I think there's some items in that woody biomass that we can somehow accelerate. So, and I'm not sure what that is. So put a plus there for me because we have still not ever dealt with that. And Christina, go ahead. I have a couple more things.
Yeah, it's just to supplement what you're saying, Commissioner. So I know Samantha mentioned the Colorado Mass Timber Coalition. I'm not sure if it's reflected in that, but I that could be an option for thank you for the biomass piece. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And I think, you know, it's something we keep talking about. We know it's a concern, but we haven't been able to advance through legislation. Remember that bill we had a few years ago where I pushed last minute about having just a pilot program for those slash days in neighborhoods and roll out a big bin and then have kind of maybe a statewide campaign for, hey, everyone's out on this weekend and mitigating their properties, and then use that one reduced cost by having that one-time thing in those containers. Well, the fire department, one of the fire districts here, heard me talking about it and how I wish they had passed, and we should figure out. And guess what? They're doing it with some of their money. So, and they're doing it this year, and they can't keep up. Let's put it that way. So it's working here. So those kinds of things, I think we can find some stories and see how we can duplicate them or accelerate them or expand them. And so I think there's, even if I know there's no money, but this problem, this crisis, and some of this work, it's not a lot of things that we can do that doesn't take money. So, and then I have that down there, and I know it's not high, but it is one of our priorities as a Forest Health Council, and it never quite scores high, but it's still one of the legs of the stool that we have not really put a lot of energy to, and I think it really has to have some energy behind it so we can not make our stool lopsided. And then I want to go down to workforce. I'm sorry, Courtney, can you scroll a little bit? Yeah, workforce. Looking at that along with, there was one about programs, planning and timing for programs. So I just learned that I didn't know what's happening even in my own county. And I was trying to figure out how I share these pictures. But of course, you know, I'm not always, but I try to go through, you know, social media, especially certain groups following. And the Poudre School District, along with what they call the PSD Futures program, as county commissioners with our American Rescue Plan dollars, we put $1 million to Poudre and $1 million to Thompson. And the Bohemian Foundation matched us to expand kind of these career technical schools. And some of it's advanced manufacturing. Loveland's focusing on first responders. They have an EMT track for EMS and some other healthcare paths that they're trying to get folks who maybe are looking for a different pathway than just a 4-year career, but maybe an intermittent step. And so I came across one that is in its second year, and that's why I was like, wait a minute, I didn't know about this. But it's their Poudre Basic Wildland Fire Program #1, and it's offered in partnership with the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. And it just certified another 36 new entry-level graduates. 36. And I see these youngsters, and there's lots of young women and men, and they're actually learning, they're carrying the torches and learning how to do prescribed fire. They're looking at how the fire trucks, they're learning all kinds of things. They're all geared out and they're learning how to cut lines, and they're learning to cut down trees. And there is a lot of students doing that. And so I know we talked about workforce and those things, but I think I didn't know that partnership was happening. And so I'm wondering if, like we talked about, you know, combining and overlapping. And so I'm wondering when we talk about workforce, we had that one grant with CSU and trying to do it through Fort Range. And if there's already something happening, how can we support that or make sure that continues? Or especially if one school district, dropped out 36 new folks, that's 36 new folks. And so I'm just curious how that looks for, even if there's they only work part-time or volunteer, they've got some training, and I'm wondering how we capitalize on that. So it's a school district, it's Poudre School District in Fort Collins, and they have mountain schools. And one of them is near LaPorte, or Poudre High School is near Mr. Morgan's business, right? Poudre High School is fairly close to you, Mr. Morgan. And it's their Poudre School District Basic Wildland Fire One program. And it's in partnership with the Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control. So it's 40 hours of classroom learning and field training over 2 weekends. And it's no cost to them. And it's through the support of the National Firefighter Corporation, True North Gear, and one of the local businesses. And is now recognized as a NWCG recognized CTE certification. And graduates can apply to local, state, and national wildland firefighter agencies for the 2026 fire season. And so that was something that I was kind of bummed that I wasn't aware of. And I have a meeting scheduled with the superintendent and the instructor here soon. And I just wanted to share about that. And I have one other comment. Mr. Morgan.
Yes, programs like these are as successful as the community support for them. And that community support can come down to some real simple things. Like with Front Range and some of the high schools and stuff here, we let them come out and do training at our facilities. They just don't have a place. They don't have a room. They physically don't have a site where they can do it. A lot of the things that we get asked for are fairly simple. And so we they need some wood to cut up for their saw training classes. They need a place to do it physically. They're trying to learn to back up pickups. I got asked this last week if we could come up with an old truck to where they could learn to back trailers for handling equipment. And so I've been trying to come up with one of those. But as far as collaboration with agencies or with industry, a lot of these things are fairly simple and they're fairly small. And it doesn't need a huge program. It just needs local support. And one of the things that I constantly come up against, we let them do a lot of things here from several different schools and agencies, but it's literally not having a site at your educational facilities that they can do this on. That seems to be a big problem for them. So just as a suggestion, in other communities, that's a place they could help a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking is this has a lot of partners, and I know there's some sort yards around Larimer County, and there's a Boulder County sort yard that's up there, has lots of room and equipment. I know every probably area has something. And so I was really intrigued by the out of box thinking and different locations. And I wondered if that was I thought I recognized some spots there, Mr. Morgan. So I just think that it's something that we could maybe look to expand or I don't know, just something
Doing that
to.
out here for about 20 or 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea. So this was
ours was more with Front Range, and it used to be with the two schools, and they changed the deal, and then the schools just reached out to us again a year ago. But they've been doing that out here for, I think, about 30 years. So
once again, I just feel like that was some interesting when we talk about workforce. It's something we haven't, there's a successful model, it looks like, and I'm wondering how we work on that. So, and I have one other thing, but Nina, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. When you were mentioning, Morgan, you were mentioning that training for truckers and trying to help people learn how to back up trailers. And it just flagged in my head, and I'm trying to find it right now. There was a discussion, and I think I was with CDOT, or maybe it was a presentation that I just watched presenting to the council around training for heavy equipment operators and truck drivers. And I wonder, and that was a partnership with CDOT. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity there to leverage CDOT to expand their trainings for some of these other roles in use for like heavy equipment and large trucks and trailers. I wonder if there's a correlation there.
This was not about that at all. I don't want to get any misconceptions. This is about young kids, land management and whatever, learning just to be able to take a pickup and a trailer and put a four-wheeler or a small piece of equipment on it that they would use like for the city of Fort Collins or for Larimer County or Boulder County. They just didn't have a place. And an old pickup, it's pretty hard on old pickups to learn to back up a trailer. A lot of these young people they can't drive a stick shift and they can't back up a trailer. And we've been working on that a little bit with Front Range and this kind of thing. They come out and they practice. A lot of your agencies right now use a whole lot of four-wheelers. They don't have a place to learn to drive them or run them. So they have that training out here a couple times a year, every year. And that's the kind of very basic skills that this workforce development that we keep talking about, really heavy equipment, and we let them do some of that with some of their classes, but there is agencies and people that handle that, and those already exist. But I'm talking about your, like Commissioner Shattuck McNally is saying, that basic training for young students to get them entry level into the workforce. Where can they run a chainsaw? Where can they run a four-wheeler? Where can they run a skid steer loader? These tools that you as agencies ask them to use all the time. That's what I was kind of trying to help with. I don't know about your exact question, Commissioner Nina Waters. I think there are groups that do that.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that I remember CDOT bringing in this organization to discuss what the work that they were doing on helping also truckers learn how to safely drive and maneuver their trailers and things. And so I was wondering if there was a nexus there. That's all I was saying. But I do like that idea. And I know at least in Summit County, or at least among Colorado Mountain College, they are always willing to open up and try new programs to help develop workforce. And I know that they get a lot of state funding to do that. And Colorado Mountain College, you know, they really are good at just like building new education pathways on the fly more than any other college I've witnessed. Thank you.
Cool. And I think that's great. And so before I have one other thing to add to that, but I'm going to go and go with Julie, and then I'd like to finish a couple of my things. Go ahead, Julie.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Morgan's comments just made me think, you know, I would encourage the program that you were raising awareness on, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, to reach out to private industry as well, right? I mean, for example, I think about the utility. We oftentimes get assets, old pickup trucks that, at least for our purposes on day to day, have reached the end of their useful life. And if we're going to get rid of an asset, and we have an opportunity through our foundation to, you know, get that pickup truck in the hands of a young group that has educational need for it, I think that would be a win-win. So would just encourage some outreach there to help further that along.
So that leads me to my next comment about this. There seems like Julie brought this up. We've seen a successful program. OED has some funding. One place, I don't know if we've tapped into local workforce development, counties workforce development departments. Larimer County partners with Weld County as well for an OCO Ready kind of large group, and they're always looking for you know, helping folks, you know, connect in jobs and industries. But since this is a need, and there might be folks looking for work, and I don't know if there's any workforce development grants, that might be another source of funding to help support work like this. And so I was wondering if we needed to bring in, just like talk about departments with the Wildfire Division of Fire Prevention and Control, makes me wonder if that's another agency or group that we should look at. When we keep talking about workforce, we have never maybe looked at overall, talking with the workforce development. And Julie, you bring up a great point that private industry or utilities, if they have old equipment or old trucks and things like that, how do we connect those folks across the state for where there is a need, and maybe someone who has an extra old truck that they could, for these programs, especially school districts are desperate for funding. How can we, I'm sure, as you know, Mr. Morgan talked about having an old truck to bring so they can practice or those things. How do we connect those things? And how do we maybe spark this idea across other communities or school districts or counties? And maybe counties have some way to collaborate with school districts and their workforce development to help kind of supercharge, just like we did with Senate Bill 5. That was such a great out of the gate kind of work. And I'm so grateful they funded it again. But it has, I've met some of those graduates that benefited from our work that I've met in areas. So I think that's another thing that if we can connect some of those dots, maybe we can, you know, many hands make light work, and many donations make all together. Everyone chips in a little bit, it comes together. So I just wanted to think outside the box and how do we do that? Mr. Morgan.
One quick comment. One of the big things that these people trying to train people run into is the insurance side of it. I drive my insurance lady crazy, and every now and then I just tell her, tough, this is how it's going to be, because there's not much direction, or there's not much, there aren't even any categories in the boxes they like to check for this kind of activity. So some help there, or somebody that knows a whole lot more than I do about the insurance industry. It seems to be a big barrier for groups that want to do training, have a place, a location. Everybody's worried about the liability. They're scared stiff of it. And so I think I'm not knowledgeable enough. I know where the need is. I don't have the answer, but some insurance, somebody with skills and knowledge along there could help craft a template to be able to do this kind of program. I think would help. A lot of people would put in the resources if they didn't think they were going to get sued to death.
Well, and that's bringing up a good point, because if we have certain agencies sponsor that have a little more indemnity, like fire districts, maybe sponsor to have it, or the state, that might help reduce the liability and have someone craft, really good releases and understanding of that. So that could, just like remember the air curtain burner that my county got several years ago, and the nonprofit got it, but they couldn't afford the insurance liability. So they gave it to the fire district, and the fire district has more protection, and they're the ones that loan it out. And so I think there's some outside the box thinking and connecting, and I'm not sure what this looks like, but I'm trying to get us to think about, we have some widow Obama's workforce that we keep talking about, but Senate Bill 5 was a really huge success, and that was great. I'd love to keep that funding, of course, but also how do we build off of that and get more folks trained? And this was something that I was like, wow, this is happening. This is exactly what I was hoping to see. So I'm just really excited. Mr. Morgan, I want to thank you for your continued big heart and generosity and the work that you do in the communities to support this. You do a lot that most people don't even know, and you don't toot your horn enough. And I want to just thank you for your tireless commitment to leadership and youth development and all those things. You're just amazing. And I'm thankful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, but it's a privilege and an honor to get to participate. And I thank you very much for that. It's about giving back a little something. The educational system gave me a lot of opportunities, and this is just a little bit about payback. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's another one I'd like to see about connecting, and maybe you all can kind of brainstorm on that. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about is if you go up to the utilities, and I want to go back to what Julie had talked about. To me, when she talked about utilities being included in public land management planning, that seems like that is I don't know if it's administrative recommendation or an ask, but that's something we could take as a legislative committee to, just like this Forest Health Council, when it was remade and changed, it had specific seats recommended that you had to fill. And I'm wondering if we come up with a list of partners that we think in industry, just like this Forest Health Council, that need to be recommended for these communities as we do the pine beetle outbreak. Like a call a friend experts or group for those people who are maybe ready for some of these smaller communities that might be able to, like a team of experts that could go around and offer to talk to counties, communities, and have almost like, of course, it'd be either volunteering time or capacity, but bringing kind of this unique perspective that we have in this legislative council. And maybe it's by quadrants, and offer a Zoom meeting, or us, we talk about the Forest Health Council in the 30-year vision. And my idea is that because of this pine beetle outbreak, maybe we join with the Forest Service and the governor or whoever, and as a Forest Health Council, we bring some of these industry experts that we have, and we all join in an educational campaign so that we can show this wide, diverse sectors coming together, and that we're sharing collective knowledge and that we're all united in this effort. It's kind of like the work group, but I think as a Forest Health Council and with that vision, it kind of gives us a lot more behind us to come and present, and we don't always have to talk, but we can be there to and maybe 2 or 3 minute comments, and then be there for questions. And I'm just wondering if that's something that we ask or share or offer them, because a lot of people don't know about this Forest Health Council and the work we do, and then like most people don't get to talk to someone as amazing as Mr. Morgan, who has all this great historical context. And I know you're really busy, sir, but I'm just wondering about that and what that looks like, or even having OEdit, and how about, what Samantha and her team have available. And it might and also promote the pre-fire playbook. And, Brett came to our Colorado Commissioners conference a week and a half ago or so, and he presented to at least the Western Range, and thank you, Commissioner Medina, for facilitating that. And he got to walk around and talk to some others. And so I'm just wondering if we really are intentional and planning, just like we are doing with, I'm working on this with the Prescribed Fire, how we do this kind of toolbox, education toolbox. And so I'm wondering how we create kind of a toolbox or group or opportunities. And that's just because I think with all this other stuff, education, awareness, and bringing people together and helping private industry and communities understand what can happen and what can be done, maybe we spark a lot of local, as you said, Mr. Morgan, local folks coming together and trying to do some of this work, because this is going to be, there's so much work to do. And we need to just bring everybody on the team and have them understand what needs to be done and how, and maybe they find local solutions or local funding, or they all come together. So that's just my thought. Nina, or Commissioner Waters.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I was wondering if, something I was thinking about, and I've been reading a lot about, is the regional talent or Opportunity Now grants that are coming out of OEdit, and the work that's going with OEdit around the regional workforce development. And so I wonder if that's a great model for kind of taking local communities and then breaking them down into smaller regions to address workforce shortages that are specific to that region. And I wonder if there's something similar that we could model off of that work to develop kind of these more cross-jurisdictional regional groups around the state, much like we do with water and planning. We have, you know, different districts for and divisions for water. I wonder if that's something worth considering.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Actually, we had a very, I think, Samantha, remind me, when we had talked about a bill we tried to run this last year, it was on workforce, and we were trying to tap into 4-H programs to offer, because there's a 4-H in every county and CSU Extension, and to kind of bring up those opportunities, and then also have them, especially the counties that have a Colorado State Forest Service hub, and seeing how we could you know, bring them all together. And we asked them when they just kind of get it started and provide, you know, they had a curriculum and they could have adopted. And we were looking at that because there's already that infrastructure in place. And I think, Samantha, we had tried to look at that, some of those grants to see how that would work, but it didn't quite fit. But still something we should consider and look at. Maybe there's a different way to approach it. Courtney, your hand is up, and then we'll go to the next one. Thank you. Courtney, are you trying to speak?
I am, of course. I lowered my hand and did not unmute myself. I was saying, I'm enjoying what you all are saying about like the education and bringing people together. And I just wanted to get some clarifying pieces. The piece about utilities being at the table and also the other experts being at the table. I was curious whose table is it? Like, is it the Forest Service? Is it their table that we need to, you know, try to advocate for spaces at? Or is it like Larimer County's table, and Larimer County is a part of this regional public land management, and we need to like get on the county's tables? So I was curious, like, what endpoint do we need to access these tables?
So I was thinking first, like the pine beetle, you know, and I'm sure there are a lot of experts, but also Julie had brought up there was a lot of places she thought that they aren't at the table. And so I don't know if she has some ideas there, but I think my thoughts were there is, to start off, Colorado Counties Incorporated. I just got back from a conference and I was like, we didn't talk about water and we didn't talk about wildfire. And I was like, we should be talking. And so I was thinking, I chair the National Resource and Wildfire Committee for CCAT. There's also CML. There's all these large groups that we could start there and maybe do a presentation and have this group to kind of insert ourselves there to kind of help educate and see if they have tables to be at, and make sure maybe they think of the comprehensive picture. So I was thinking at least those kinds of tables of organizations or Office of Emergency Management. I don't know, but or if there is a large working group for the pine beetle or whatever, I just feel like we should make sure all hands on deck. So I'm just kind of thinking, but and CML has a group, and ski towns, Colorado Mountain Ski Towns. There's things we can go and share the Forest Health 2030 plan, and maybe, I know that the State Forest Service is going to be out and doing this, but I'm wondering how we can help and help bring some of the experts like Mr. Morgan and in a county perspective or a leadership perspective, and how we do this to kind of add to it to, I don't know, just something I've been thinking about. So how can we show a united front to maybe spark action or collaboration or partnerships in each of these areas of the state, and whether it be county or quadrants or regions, just something I was thinking about, because those are the people that a lot of them are city elected or state electeds, town electeds, small business owners, and we could really get folks engaged and alerted and maybe spark some innovation in areas that we hadn't tried before. So does that help, Courtney?
Yeah, that's really helpful. And it actually seems like there could be this really wonderful tie-in. Like if the state forest, service entomologist is going to be having this road show about mountain pine beetle, like actually it'd be so interesting to have like a Forest Health Council presentation sort of in conjunction with that, to be like, okay, this is the details on like the entomology, the species, but then like this is the diverse stakeholders and resources that are also available, to kind of have it be a dual presentation. And especially now that we're doing this legislative breakfast and we're pulling together all of these materials and resources, it kind of could be a really nice springboard to take sort of the council on the road and share its work with more people.
I was just thinking, because we did have talk about getting the 2055 30-year vision out. So I'm thinking out loud. Now we're almost out of time, but I think this has been a great discussion. So I'm going to go, and I have other ideas, but I've talked enough, and let's do Samantha, and then I think Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, I just wanted to revisit the Opportunity Now comments from Commissioner Waters. I think what we're finding through these discussions is, especially on the state level, there are a lot of very impactful programs, a lot of which actually came out of pandemic funding to support recovery, that are kind of now tried and true over the last 5 years, that I think the state hopes to continue to invest in. And I think probably what we could discuss as a council is, like, are there these existing programs or concepts that we could duplicate, tap into, whatever that looks like, while ensuring that multiple, whether that's agencies or, local government, or communities, whatever that looks like, either know about them if they're eligible for them, or could use it as a blueprint for another type of program. So I think Opportunity Now is a really interesting one. And if we wanted the talent innovation team at OEDIT to talk about the creation of that program, can certainly bring that group to the table. But I also wanted to acknowledge, like, on the workforce side and a lot of other things, like, it kind of depends on the state agency. And I think most, like, if we were to look specifically at, forest health and timber and watershed health and all these things we've been discussing, most of these organizations would be eligible. But the question is, would it make more sense to have a forest health specific initiative? And I think that's something that the council should discuss. And then where would that exist? Is that DNR? So just wanted to put that out there. Lots of great blueprints, I think, worth continuing the conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm looking for. Is we know we have budget constraints, but the problem is expanded and expedited, and I think some out of the box thinking about how we're going to try to connect all these, because I do believe we need everyone to be maybe joining in on this from all sectors. Mr. Morgan.
Try to keep this real short. I was looking at, like, say, a place at the table for the utility companies. I was thinking of, whenever anybody plans an active management program or a timber sale or whatever on any piece of property, they tend to have a short list of people that they reach out to that they think might be significantly impacted. They might go to Game and Fish and say, what's this going to do to your game management plans? They go to some of the water entities and say, what's our harvesting program here going to do to you? And I guess what I'm asking for is for that same outreach to utility companies and anybody else that you think might be appropriate on that list. But just to make that outreach to them and say, how does this affect you? And even get their input. A lot of times poor decisions are made because they didn't even have the input, or they didn't even step out and ask. And I guess I would like to see a short list, or that somebody look at it. It's kind of like they do this under NEPA, but they don't always go out to the people that are directly impacted. So that's where I was coming from with it. They don't have to show up for a table, but now everybody's been talking here, and maybe you do want a total group that when you're going to do this. I don't want to add layers of bureaucracy for our land management agencies to be able to get their work done. I guess I would like to streamline who they ask for input. But I'd have to think about what was said here today. It's been really interesting.
I agree with you. That's kind of also the piece I was thinking too, was how do we suggest that they partner and make sure that's all together. Julie.
Yeah, the benefit of speaking after Mr. Morgan is he usually nails it. The seat at the table I was talking about was really at the land planning, when you're planning work on lands, have you thought about the priority and the interface with utility infrastructure and, how the organizations could partner together? Again, a lot of hands make for small work, but also risk reduction in that partnership. And so making sure that that perspective is part of the discussion when outlining what work needs to be done and what's the priority and what's the benefit. Because if we're reducing the risk of wildfire, we're protecting our watersheds, we're protecting a lot of things, we're protecting our communities. So making sure we're being thoughtful, 360 in planning that work.
So, and I think that's a great point. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I probably was, that's one thing we can add to that list, because like I go monthly to the Big Thompson Watershed Health Partnership, which is the Forest Service and National Park. Yesterday I was in the NOCO Fireshed Coalition, which is probably 50 people or more. I'm trying to remember, if there's any utilities there, but there's a lot, and it's a multi-county group. And so I think that's another, I don't think there's a usual regular utility representative in those meetings. So I'd have to go back and double check, but we can contact those we could recommend, those organizations, maybe at least have some kind of engagement, but I don't know what that looks like, because they're all nonprofits and separate organizations. And even though they have all these, some government and non-governmental agencies, can we just make a suggestion or offer or make a suggestion when we can't tell them to do that? I don't know what that looks like, but I'm wondering about that piece, Julie. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, part of it is, and counties and other jurisdictions do this really well, right? You formulate this process and you have a referral list of, hey, whose input do we need in order to make a good decision? And I think it could be as simple as that, right? When folks are sitting down to make a plan, have they at least asked, relevant stakeholders for their input to be considered when making the plan? It could just be as simple as impacting what is their process and who are they asking, and making that recommendation, because I think if they view it as getting to a better decision overall to get a higher quality outcome, I think most people are going to be open to hearing the recommendation.
So we did that with our land use process when we have land use things that come through, especially like a short-term rental or extension, especially around Rocky Mountain National Park, since a lot of my county borders that. And they really weren't engaged until I came into the board. And I said, why aren't we asking them for what they think? Because this is right against the park. And then of course they had wildfire concerns, right?
Sure.
And unauthorized access into the park from those locations, which is really important because that makes their jobs harder. And so now we send out, we started meeting with them, and of course, how I did that. I said, let's go to lunch. We have everybody come, and we talked, and now they're part of our process. And so, and they do get an automatic referral. So now we have a long list of referral agencies. And so, I'm thinking that that's another thing. I agree with you, Courtney. So let's keep going on that. I think that's a great thought, and how we look at that. And I don't know if that's something that we would do through DOLA, to maybe offer counties that maybe that should be a referral, because they do it for fire districts and all these other things are suggested. But I know I'm a little prickly as counties were like, don't tell us what to do. So, it's kind of like local control, but I think could be a good suggestion. So I'm curious about that. All right, so we're almost out of time. There was another hand up. Who did I miss?
I just lowered my hand. I was just going to name that the Forest Resilience Planning Guide that the council developed sort of guides people through this exact process of gathering stakeholders who are relevant voices and perspectives that you need at the table when making these decisions. So I think continuing to get that out to these regional partnerships is a really good idea.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for flagging that and reminding us, I haven't looked at that lately, and it's such a great document. There's so much information there. I think I tend to forget that it's there. So thank you for that reminder. All right, we're almost out of time. What do you guys think about, just real quick, because we want to talk about the breakfast, and just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. How did everyone like how I kind of let us all kind of put things on the paper today? Did that help a little bit to kind of, with thumbs up? Good stuff? No? Yeah? Okay. Are we meeting next week? On the 19th? Okay.
Yes, we have a meeting on the 19th, and then the next meeting isn't until the 9th of January.
Yeah. So in the holidays, my brain turns off. So I'm hoping you all will kind of go through that list, because I plan on shutting it down finally. Hopefully, it's going to be a close call. I'm really cushioning the edge, but I hope you'll take a little more time to go through that list and think about things. And because I think now we have something on paper, and let's not saying that list is in concrete, but we have some good ideas there, I think. And then let's go through the dinner or the breakfast real quick. I do have a good budget, and the stickers, and I didn't get that done. I'm just trying to, I might talk to you, Courtney, about the size, but I'm going to do the stickers. So the action items as a chair on Commissioner Waters is from me, just to say, can you just review the list and be ready for next week? That's it. Just one thing. So, and you can go, and how you choose to do that is, if you want to go back and look through everything that Courtney has already sent out, all the information, all the notes, and you have all the information you need, just to make sure that you just kind of review that and be ready for next Friday. So, and I'd like to just keep it an hour, if that's, I don't know, are we an hour and a half or just an hour? Just because.
I think, yeah, we can make that decision right now. It's scheduled for an hour and a half, but it's up to this group.
Would you all just mind if we went for an hour? I'm a little selfish. All three of my kids are coming home that day, and I'd love to take them to breakfast. So they didn't come home for Thanksgiving. It's my first time in my life. My kids are not around, and so it's just, I'm a little selfish. So sorry. But Mr. Morgan, what's your thoughts?
A real quick one. Our executive director for CTIA, Colorado Timber Industry Association, asked to sit in on this. I believe Megan Maxwell's been listening in here. And the industry association would like to be involved in any way that you would think appropriate, as far as the breakfast, as far as information or whatever products or things that you think might be helpful. But we would like to participate in whatever way would be appropriate. So, and Megan would be your contact for that. And I think she's been listening. Are you there today, Megan?
Yep, I've been listening.
Okay, very good.
Great. Thank you. All right, so according to the action item is just to review the list that we created today. And so that you're ready to kind of, maybe we put tier 1, tier 2. So how about that? You pair tier 1, tier 2. And no ideas off, just tier 1, tier 2. And you already have all the information, the meeting notes. Courtney's been sending us fantastic information. Thank you, Courtney. We have 1 minute left. Courtney, do you have any other updates for that? For the breakfast, sorry.
No other, I'll give brain switch. We've been getting quotes for the breakfast, and we've gotten approval to invite Smokey Bear to the event. We thought he could just make an appearance for 15 minutes. And if he's on the invitation, that might be an incentive for legislators to come down and say hello. We're going to have coffee, and we've gotten a great selection of people submitting stories that relate to the different themes within the 30-year vision. So a small group of us is going to pull out a story for each of the themes and link it to the website, so that when legislators we're going to have them scan a QR code, it'll take them to the 30-year vision. They won't only get to read the vision, but they'll also get to read success stories or interesting stories that relate to the theme. So things are going well. And I can also just send out an email because I know we're at time with more information about that. Jody, you're also on mute.
Sorry, I was going to order 250 stickers. If you think that's enough, or do I need to order more than that?
I think that's plenty.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if I should be ordering food for 100 people, or, you know, if we expect 15 council members, am I getting food for 120 people? It definitely changes the price, and maybe that's not important for this call right now, but curious.
Well, let's try to talk about it next week. We'll put that as in. I'll give more time. Let's give more time to this next week. All right. Thank you all for going along with my new kind of way to do this, and I'm glad you felt it was helpful. I just thought trying to get us to get that list. So let's don't add any ideas. Can we add a parking lot document? So let's don't add any new ideas to that list. Just add a parking lot document. So that if you have a new something that comes, add it to the parking lot document. And then also let's just keep the other lists done. And so we can look at both of those. And that will be the agenda next week. And the other thing about Smokey the Bear, if any of the U.S. Forest Service or State Forest, there's rangers who dress in their uniforms and stuff. I know it's a lot to ask, but that usually when someone's in a uniform, a ranger or something, people like to come see and talk to people in the uniform. So that might be also another, if any of those folks are coming, that might be another attraction. So just thought about that if anyone's coming. So if they're coming with Mr. Smoking. Okay, great. Well, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Great. Anyone opposed to that motion? All right, everybody. We are adjourned. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday. Thank you.